Another day in paradise.
Settle people down.
Yeah, keep them calm. That's what it is. Calm people in life. That's all.
Good morning and thank you and welcome to another edition of Philly Stat presentation series. Today we'll be discussing Mayor's Goal 2, the education and health of all Philadelphians improves. Today with us we have the President and Director of the Free Library of Philadelphia, Siobhan Reardon, and members of our leadership team to give us progress and an update on Mayor's Goal 2, including an update on the Read by 4 campaign, which was recently announced. As usual, we will start off with introductions from participants around the table. Mayor Nutter will make some opening remarks, and we'll turn it over to the President-Director to take us through today's presentation.
Well, thank you very, very much. And it's an exciting opportunity to hear about many of the changes and the collaborative spirit over at the Free Library of Philadelphia, the impact that this great organization has on the lives of our citizens, as well as you mentioned, a new campaign focused on literacy and reading for young people here in our city, which is the cornerstone of making progress here in Philadelphia. So I think I'd throw it back to you or to Jackie, or I think we're going to go around the table, but let's get started.
Sure. I'm Jackie Linton, Deputy Managing Director and the Director of the Center of Excellence.
I'm Lyle Alakhurst, Director of the Philly Stat Program and Performance Management for the City of Philadelphia.
My name is Donald Root. I'm the Chief of Central Public Services at the Free Library.
I'm John Meyer, Deputy Director of Digital Strategies and IT.
I'm Joe Benford, Deputy Director for Customer Engagement.
I'm Indira Scott. I'm the Chief of Staff.
Siobhan Reardon, President Director of the Free Library.
Mike DeBerardinis, Deputy Mayor for Environmental and Community Resources, and the library is under my deputy.
Dave Edwards, Chief Financial Officer.
Daniel Ryan, Data Manager at the Free Library Strategic Initiatives Department.
Melissa Greenberg, Vice President for Development.
Lynn Williamson, the Chief of the Neighborhood Library Services Department.
John Curtis, Performance Management Analyst with the Philly Staff Program.
Al DeToio, Director of Human Resources.
Everett Gillison, Chief of Staff to the Mayor.
John?
Well, thank you.
Sure.
And thank you for having the Free Library in to talk about some of the accomplishments we've made over the last number of years. As you can see from the presentation, let me flip to the presentation. It begins with the fact that we've opened up a culinary literacy center at our Parkway Central location, and the reason we were able to do that is we've been going through a renovation process throughout many of our facilities, but not the least of which is our Parkway Central location. And as we were rethinking aspects of the top floor, which is the 4th floor of the building, we discovered there was once upon a time a public cafeteria up in that space, and so we said let's rethink that, and decided because we really wanted to be a part of the continuum of people that looking at the literacy issue here in the city, decided that there's got to be a different way that we look at literacy and how it is we accomplish or achieve better literacy results for the city, and decided that a culinary literacy center, that's kind of a name we made up. And really when you think about cooking and sort of the loveliness around a kitchen when people gather, but cooking is one of those things that cuts across a number of literacies. It's basic nominal literacy skills, it's math literacy, it's science literacy, it's health literacy. So we've been able to deal with a number of programs. So in the past 9 months, 10 months, we've had over 200 programs and over 3,000 people come through a program here. And so we're reaching English as a second language. So Chef Garces does English as a second language classes in our literacy center for his restaurant workers who are learning English skill sets. So that's just an example. Plus, we have a number of school children as well as adults from low literacy neighborhoods and coming into the center. So we're very proud of this work. Part of the reorganization of the Free Library, which has been essential over the last couple of years, is to take a look at how it is we respond more nimbly to the our relationship with our constituents or our customers. And we decided it was important to break it down from 4 large areas to 8 smaller areas called clusters. And each of these clusters is responsible, so it's an average of 6 libraries per cluster. The cluster leader is responsible for the professional development of that staff, as well as creating a very direct relationship with the community. And part of this is a responsibility for directing what we call a community council. So it's the library, it's community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, police, fire, whomever is in that community to build an organization that is about the building up that community and therefore all of the families in that community and how well they can be worked with and for using our. Pardon?
Is there a map of that?
Is there a map in here? I want to say
not,
no. So we can submit that.
Just wanted to know whether or not, is that based on what I would call in public safety, we have divisions, we have battalions, we have matter. Is that roughly the same as every president?
Pretty close to the police department divisions, though not perfect, but very similar. Right. It's one of the things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years in particular with some of the restoration that we've been receiving from the city is absolutely open up more hours. This has been a substantial increase of public service hours. So come next fiscal year, we'll have every single library location open 6 days a week, and we'll have 10 libraries open on Sunday. And a lot of that has to do with providing more public service, not only for our families, but also the school children, particularly so they can come in and get after-school supports.
The 10 that will be open in the next fiscal year, 7 days a week, or on Sundays.
Right.
How are they dispersed throughout the city from a geographic standpoint?
Joe, pretty much per segment, I think it's evenly dispersed around this, around the city. Okay. But I think we've been very careful to make sure that we're covering, right, sort of quadrants of the city to make sure that there's that.
We'll have at least one open on Sunday in every cluster.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. And that's a part of the question that was asked earlier. You'll get us a map.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And we'll highlight those that are going to be 7 days.
Okay. And that'll be up on your website as well.
Okay. Yep. Thanks for that. So another piece of work that we're getting inside now is what we call our Building Inspiration Initiative, and this is changing the physical plant, adapting the physical plant of our libraries to much more 21st century type of work. So, libraries were built as temples of knowledge, and you have to walk up lots of stairs, and there's lots of stiffness to our libraries. Whether they were built in 1900 or 1950, there is a rigidity to the facility, and with the push on technology and how we've been able to adapt, it's been amazing how we've been able to adapt given the stiffness and the materials, actually, a lot of marble, a lot of concrete, in adding technology into our facilities. But Building Inspiration looks to change that. It creates a much more soft, welcoming, accessible environment. So right now we have 5 neighborhood libraries inside Building Inspiration in addition to our Parkway Central location. And so it is about creating highly accessible buildings, whether it's the physical nature of it, but it's also dealing with some of the emotional challenges that some of our constituents has, as well as some of the visual appearances, as well as, we do a lot of work with autistic children, and so you have to be careful about colors, and you have to be careful about your visual sight lines. And of course, our Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped leads the way there. And of course, the Read by 4, which is a recent initiative of the Free Library of Philadelphia, has just been named as the backbone agency for Read by 4. And basically, that is a coalition of 50 or more partners, as we expect going forward. It is about focusing on the importance of early literacy and early literacy development among our children. It has 4 basic tenets. One is family engagement, another is improved instruction, another is about working with families and communities about improving school attendance, and the last is what we call year-round reading, but a real focus on summer reading and preventing the summer slide for some of the children who just don't read over the summer, and that's a critical component of it. So, okay. So we have, as I said, one of the nice things is that we've been, the mayor, and I can't thank you enough for the support you have of the Free Library, and the recovery that we've been experiencing since 2008, and it's been reflective in the staff and the quality of the staff and some of the changes that we've been able to make. And I can't thank Al DiTilio enough for all of his support as we rebuild the organization, looking at job descriptions and structure and combination of the Free Library as well as the Free Library Foundation. So it's all been pretty great, the way we've been able to ramp up and look at the world of the Free Library as we relate to technology and at adapting a much more community focus. And of course, with the 21st Century Libraries campaign, it is about improving the facilities as we go along. So one of the things as we entered the need to do a strategic plan for the Free Library was that we had a mission statement that was 3 paragraphs long, and I challenged anybody to remember one word of that mission statement, down to basically 6 important words, which is about advancing literacy, guiding learning, and inspiring curiosity, which is the basic work of our library and our library staff every single day. And the vision, just that thing that's a little bit out of reach, and thing that we want to achieve is building an enlightened community devoted to lifelong learning. And so this is for all Philadelphians, and I think this is about the equity and the plurality of the work that we do at the Free Library, which has been important. So important around this was the number of people that we had engaged in the process, not only from the city of Philadelphia, but our boards, and we had over 80 staff members participating in it, so it was a pretty broad process that got us to the point where we are now. So as you can see, well, that's not the cluster map, Everett, but that's just a broad map of, the many locations that we have. But you can see that, when you're looking at the Free Library, we had this idea of trying to be all things to all people, but during this process we realized we had to kind of trim that down and begin to focus our services. And in the process we determined that we were going to have a high focus on 5 particular areas. We weren't going to discontinue services to other people, but we're going to have much more intense focus in these 5 areas. As you can see, new Americans or immigrants, that has made up the largest increase in population here in Philadelphia over the last number of years. Of course, job seekers, particularly since 2008, we've had quite a number of people coming through the door looking for support. And it's been remarkable about the entry-level job seeker versus the person that is looking to change careers, and the spectrum of folk that we're serving there. Our Small Business and Entrepreneur Program has been one of those programs that has grown by leaps and bounds. Amazing number of people here in the city looking to start a small business, and we had the Fell School of Government come in and do an analysis, an economic analysis, and what it says is that the Free Library helped over nearly 8,000 to 9,000 businesses either start or improve with the services of the Free Library. And of course, our real focus on access services is to improve the services of the Free Library, whether physically or virtually, to people who have disabilities. And this is persistent throughout all of our locations. So here's some of the background, is that the library is old, 125 years old just about. We have a very broad scope of physical facilities, 60 locations, including 54 physical facilities, 3 hotspots, which are technology training centers in community-based organizations. And what's interesting there, it was and this was sort of the paradigm shift for us. It was actually money that was the Knight Foundation gave us support to create these hotspots. Right. And what we realized as we were in these hotspots, that many of the people that were in the hotspots never crossed the transom of a public library because of the presumption of literacy that they thought you needed. Right. And so that was sort of when we said we really need to go deeper into the community and have much more of a presence, because we've been able to register thousands of people in these hotspots just because they've engaged us with an understanding that, I don't need to, they're actually helping with my literacy skills first, and predominantly digital literacy skills in the hotspots. We have a techmobile, and we just opened a regional operations center over on the Innovation Campus over at the University of Pennsylvania to help us with the work that we're doing at Parkway Central, moving out materials, and we're creating, this is where our logistics all now occurs, and instead of trying to piecemeal it around the system, it's been coordinated all in one space now. And of course, we have a hotspot or sort of what I call a lounge, a digital lounge at the Philadelphia International Airport. So we were the first public library to do that.
Where is that?
So on the DE connector closer to Terminal E. It's great. It's usually pretty crowded, though I came in from Kansas City.
So what's in there? What happens?
So it's basically a digital hotspot. So if you're waiting for a flight,
Right.
you can come in and you can go online and you can download our podcast, or you can go on and use our databases, or you can download if you're a card holder, then you can download an ebook, that kind of thing. And
Okay.
and we actually brought in our own high-speed line, and we had to create a relationship with the airport.
Right.
So Mark L. and I worked on this for a couple of years and
Right.
finally got it going. What did you say, Jim, about 2 years ago?
About 2 years.
Okay,
Wow.
and so it's been great, and some days you go in there's not a seat there, and,
Okay.
depending upon the time of day,
Yeah.
but yes, it's very.
And is there a sign up and everything?
Oh,
And you
yeah,
said
it's,
this is on
it's
the
very
D-
vivid.
On the DE?
It says that you're brought to you by, the Free Library of Philadelphia.
Right.
And so we brought the high-speed line, and the airport created the lounge aspect to it. And,
Okay.
yeah, it's very exciting.
Definitely
And
have
it
to
was,
check that out.
we were thrilled to be number one to do
There you
that.
go.
Of course, we have the physical manifestation of the library is in its books and the material that we have, 141 electronic databases. That's not insignificant, because this is where the small business and entrepreneur really comes to us to get support, like Dun & Bradstreet databases or LexisNexis and some of these things they could never afford
Right.
for themselves. Of course, internet access is, we still have so many homes without internet access, and we still are that provider for many of these homes.
Right.
And of course, the number of programs that we have throughout the city, 26,000. This is, when Pew did the analysis of the free library, we were the library that had the most number, we were noted for the amount and quality of the programming that we provide. So pretty proud of that. So this is just a scan of the various partnerships that we have, and this has been one of the real key changes that we've made, is the amount of partnerships and relationships that we've created to build the capacity of the Free Library and its programmatic efforts. So this chart really is purely internal, though it should say Board of Trustees reporting to the City of Philadelphia, not the mayor. But this is, what's important here is how we began to talk about the relationship of how it is we're combining the resources of the foundation and the staff on the foundation with the city-funded staff, and what it meant to combine these resources. And again, Al has been wonderful as an advisor in this, but you can see just the connection between, there was a lot of crossover between the two organizations, and how it is we took the assets of both of these organizations and began to blend it. It's not without its challenges on civil service and unions, but it's beginning to happen, and I'm beginning to see some real connection on how it is you align resources. It's been essential to do this as we began to change the conversation around who's funded by the foundation and their responsibility versus who's funded by the city and their responsibility. To me, it's all one organization, and we need to respond correctly. Mike I don't mean to forget Mike DeBaradinas, who has been just a fabulous advisor on this as well. It took a lot of work to get it to this point.
It's impossible to forget Mike.
It took a lot of conversations, right, Al?
impossible.
This is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. Okay, so this is just the financial chart. Not surprising. We're building back, and of course, this is pretty purely the public money. This is not the private money that gets added onto this too, which would add another close to 10 million on operating support, and then of course the capital money that comes in on top of that as well. So. All right, let's talk about performance targets. So not surprisingly, circulation of the physical material is declining. But a lot of that I would attribute. So when you see that drop from 7.5 to 6.6, if you remember the work that we were doing to try and save the audio materials here in Philadelphia on the library for the blind and physically handicapped, that was a drop of 1 million. That was 1 million circs, and so that is a direct.
That was a state cut?
No, what it was is a decision of the state librarian to coordinate all of those materials out in Pittsburgh. Yeah, exactly. So that's the big drop. So we're consistently around the 6.6, 6.5, but we have a number of facilities closed now. So like South Philadelphia, which has been closed for a year because of the reconstruction of that facility, that's a busy branch, and so that you're going to see.
That's a part of the larger.
That part building inspiration. That's exactly right. That's exactly right, and a number of others. But so we'll if we get to 6, that'll be disappointing but good.
But other than that particular branch, which the rec center, and the health center were all taken out of commission.
Correct.
All libraries are open.
they're all open, but some are closed because of HVAC issues or that sort of thing. But yes, they're all open as a matter of course. But then some of them are dropping off because of HVAC, because of the heat and some of the other issues in the facility. So we're looking to correct
How
some of
many
that.
do you have in that category?
6 right now? HVAC and building issues? 3, okay.
3, okay. And is there I'm sure there's a schedule for when they come back online?
Yes.
Is that just the ordering of materials and getting
Jim,
equipment? And-
this is Jim Picaro, who's our VP of Building.
All basically in July, and we're waiting on construction to conclude materials to be delivered.
Right. But what about July?
All 3 of the ones that are closed right now are slated to be open in July.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
Have we communicated that out to folks in the community, city
We do
council
every
members?
single
they
time
know
we,
what's,
right, every
what's
single
going
time
on
we
with
close a
those?
facility, we have a community forum.
Okay.
And we meet with the
So
community.
they know why it's closed and what it's
Exactly, and for
about
how
and what's
long
going
it's
on.
closed, yes.
Okay.
And particularly with the ones that we're going to close for the full renovation, restoration, we've been having regular meetings with the folks because they're looking at the design, they're commenting on the designs. They, a lot of concern about the potential of the building being closed for 2 years.
Right.
You know, what are
Sure.
the alternate services that we're going to be providing? And so we're working through all of that. But
Right.
so we're through schematic designs on those 4. Pretty exciting, beautiful designs. We'll have to share them with you. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Physical visits, it looks like we're not going to meet it, but I'm pretty confident we're going to come very close to the target of 5.7 million people coming through the door. You know, winter months are always tough, and so we tend to have a big boost in the later months of the fiscal year.
Are these, how do these trends, well, before I ask the question, do we have a sense of why over the last few years? Again,
Yeah.
none of the libraries closed. They've all been open. We've been increasing services and programs and other activities. So what's
So
going
you're
on?
looking at circulation. This is a national trend. So this is we're not the only one experiencing this. So it's more people coming in for the programming, or coming in for using the computer versus circulating materials. And so that's when we started having a conversation. We have to stop talking about this stuff and start talking about the experience of people still coming into the building. That's what I'm saying. The physical visits are actually growing, but you'll see that how people are visiting. This looks like we're not going to meet the target. I guarantee you we'll meet this target. But here's the one I want to show you. This is the virtual visits. We are going to blow through this. So more people are coming to us.
So I saw this in a report. So I am kind of old-fashioned in that way, because I'm just used to walking in the library. I have my card.
Oh, yeah.
So what is a virtual visit?
This is, you are sitting at a computer and you're coming onto our website and you're looking at our databases, our podcasts, or you're looking for an ebook or any one of those. So those are called virtual visits. And so, and then a lot of the work of our librarian staff in particular is all about creating this sort of e-bibliographies, and so that you're looking at good good websites, because probably one of the most confounding areas of library science is the amount of data there is on the internet, and how it is you break that down into actually accessible and usable sites.
So I think it's important that we help to, if there's a paradigm shift, there's a different model of how people are using the traditional library, then I think it's really important that we help educate both the public and elected officials about these trends of what's really going on in library service, and that a decline in physical visits may not necessarily be the only measurement of what's going on in a healthy, robust library system, because increasingly, as people are using web services and the internet, et cetera, sometimes you don't physically have to go
That's correct.
to the library.
Right.
It's kind of, we're seeing, I would think, the same thing in banking. Right?
Oh, sure.
I don't
Absolutely.
have to now go into the bank. It doesn't mean I don't have a relationship with the bank. It doesn't mean I'm not using the bank.
Correct.
I just don't have to do it, because I can sit in my house and
That's right.
transfer money, make a deposit, pay bills, et cetera, which in older time, you had to go.
Right.
There was an alternative.
Right, and the other piece of this is, you know, as I talked about the importance of pushing our work out into community, so a lot of our work is actually, it's become a bit more ubiquitous, where we're actually going more into schools or more in community-based organization or faith-based organization. So we're not
You're
sitting
taking
and
the library
waiting
to
for
the
you
people.
to come in through the doors. We're actually walking through yours now in a way that we've never really used it
Yeah,
before.
so I
But
think we
it
have to-
doesn't, yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is hours open. Again, we are going to, I have no doubt, go exceed this target too. And this is a very exciting trend, actually, to see the number of hours open. It's, you know, the fact that we're open an average of 45 hours a week, this is a big deal because, you know, I'm always comparing ourselves to other organizations, and we're doing great, actually. So.
Siobhan, what does it take to actually extend hours at a neighborhood library? Like, can you talk about sort of the structure? Because I know there's required personnel that need to be there, security or whatnot. And that was one of the questions that came up as we engaged citizens online is, when is my neighborhood library going to be open 6 days a week, and what does it take?
So I'm going to turn to Lynn and to Joe to speak specifically around that, if you will.
Sure. Basically, it takes 7 full-time equivalent staff to open a branch library 6 days a week. In addition to the 7 FTE, you really need about 3 seasonal workers to bolster the staff to get them to adequately cover the bridge of 6 days. So if we have that, and we're working towards that, and we'll certainly meet that fully next year, next fiscal year. This year we've had a bit of a struggle getting there.
And why is that?
Well, it's partly due to the hiring, the slowness of the hiring process. This past year, we now have to do 3 background checks on every new employee that we hire, which we did.
Just because of a change in law?
Yes.
Most of the child abuse.
Is that the one
It takes,
talking about
it can
in the
take up to
broader-
3 months.
Really?
It takes a long time.
Oh, yeah. So our average new hire.
Just because of processing by these other agencies? Because, I mean, we do it outside of the city government, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Requires an FBI check, a state check, fingerprinting.
Right.
So it's a much more detailed process.
Right.
If there are other things that my office can help you with in
Right.
trying to tweak the civil service to get you candidates more quickly, I'll be happy to
Great.
sit down with you and try to work that
And we've
out.
identified our own stuff on our own internal side too that we're working on as well. So you know, it's
Right.
not, we're not pointing fingers. We're not doing, you know, we're just saying it is a
Right.
group of issues that we need to sort of solve if they're solvable. But you know, the 3 background checks is not solvable. That is what's going to take, and it takes
Right.
about 3 months actually
Right.
to get these checks done. So,
Okay.
Lynn, do you have any other comment? So that 7 people so on top of those 7 people are the folks that are going to come in support of the Read by 4 initiative, which is the new support that you've given us, thank goodness, and as well as our LEAP after school initiative. So those are all additional personnel specifically designed to work on those programs.
There was, none of us want to go back to 2008, 2009, but.
No.
No. But there was a lot of discussion about the LEAP program.
Right.
At that time. How is it doing?
So we have roughly, I want to say 60,000 children dropping into this program on an annual basis. And I think that's an enormous number of children. So we changed the program to add what we call tabletop literacy, so that the child will come in, we'll give them a moment to sort of decompress, and then but we want them to work we want to work, get them to do their homework. And so that program has teen mentors, and so it's mostly high school students that have been hired by our local staff to work with the children to make sure that they're getting their homework done. So children goes from 5, 6 to 12, 13, 14, and they're being mentored by another 15-year-old, which is great. But these are young people with a lot of leadership qualities that we're looking to do. So each of the students that are mentors have to have a no less than a C average in school, and we ask them to make sure they show us their grades. But as I was mentioning the other day when Secretary Duncan was here, the data behind the young people, the mentoring that, because those teens are mentored by an older adult, whether it's a college student or a neighborhood leader, as what we call an after-school leader. So 95% of those teenagers graduate from high school on time. That is just substantial because we give them a lot of attention. We give them leadership training and we give them a lot of coaching and so. So the program in and of itself, we're still serving, I think, it's still 60,000 children. I'm almost sure of that number. And, but it's a comprehensive program which really works on the literacy skill sets now, whether it's nominal literacy or science literacy, you know, and we've added a lot of STEM work into our programs now too. So that's all part of the work.
How do children enroll in that? Are you a
So it's drop-in. So it's an interesting thing because you know, most of our library programs are drop-in, and we're beginning to shift that now to have try and figure out how it is we begin to have children register in some way, shape, or form. So the model for us is going to be the Chicago Public Library has what's called a U-Media Center. And all of the young people that go into that, I know you know this, so when they walk into it, they swipe their library card, and so that you know that John Jones is now in this space, and what actually, as John will go through and he'll register to take whether he's a technology training class or he's going to be over in the writing class, they're keeping track of how it is that young person is actually taking advantage of the various programs, and if they're just coming in and sitting down, then the sort of mentors and the advocates in this space will try and move that individual to a program so that they're developing skill sets.
This is what is often referred to as the teen center.
Yes, yes, exactly, the U-Media Center. It's a marvelous model, and there was a lot of research behind that, and so we'll begin adopting some of that here. But you know, of course, you know, Libraryland has this whole thing about privacy, and we're like, gotta let a little bit of that go. So. Okay, where are we? So computer use. So this is a funny number because I know we'll beat this target too because our computers are constantly in use. And there's more people, John or Jim, do we know whether the people coming in with their laptops and getting on is part of this computer use? So the individual Wi-Fi use, is that in this number?
Yes.
It is in this number? I'm surprised it's this low. Because this is our constant this is our constant business, and we're actually adding a new staff member called a digital resource specialist to every single location or to most of our locations, and this is a person that's going to be specifically there to help people around the PCs and people who need a little bit more attention, so that our librarians aren't rushing to the printer and helping somebody print. So these are people that are going to be dedicated to helping develop the digital literacy skill sets of our constituents. Program attendance, as you can see, we've already met our target and we'll continue to grow in this 702. We're already there, and we still have two and a half months, and this doesn't even begin the process of our summer reading program, which begins bringing in students now. Our preschool program is also growing by leaps and bounds as well, which is going to be an important part of the Read by 4 initiative as well. So as you can see here, our strengths are listed in the 3 C's here. Our community presence and the fact that we see ourselves as a connector to a lot of programs and initiatives, not only at the library, but throughout the communities, and as well as our children's programming, which is probably the greatest asset to the Free Library of Philadelphia, is the amount of children programming that we have.
So I struggle from time to time with keeping track of the number of facilities. In my mind, there are a total of 54. But we often talk about the 49 neighborhood libraries.
Right, 3 regionals.
The 3 regionals. What are the?
Central.
Central.
And Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped.
Okay. Because sometimes they don't necessarily get listed in all the materials. So I know 54, then I see 52. Like and then Central. Well, of course Central, and you know. Okay. All right. Deputy Mayor DeBardinis, quick question. Is it also true, is it still true, do you recall, that we also have more swimming pools per capita?
Than any other city, yeah. Although we've lost a few, well, not lost a few, but intentionally took a few out to spray grounds.
Right.
And when you count pools, we're per capita. If we're not number 1, we're close.
Right. And what about and is that the same on recreation facilities?
I have not looked at that, but we're in the top.
I don't think it was, I think
we're in the top 5, if we're not, per capita, we're in the top 5. For staff, facilities in our system,
Yeah,
which is
I
about
think we're-
50, so.
Yeah,
we're in
when
good
we went,
shape.
again, when we
We're-
went, my recollection is.
The pools.
When we went through.
We're number one.
Definitely.
In terms of staff facilities per capita, we're not in, we're in the top 3 or 4.
Right. So,
I don't have that.
So Mayor, on community presence up in the top left-hand corner, which I know the people watching this program can hardly see, but that is the new model for our 21st Century Library. It is, you can see, that's the Logan Library. So if you remember the Logan Library now, you come in, it's dark, there's lots of stuff in your way, there's lots of security, and so all of that is going away, and you can see a much more open, accessible.
This is like a version of one of those shows on HGTV.
We have Property Brothers coming in.
Open concept?
Yes, it is a completely open concept
library.
library.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this, you don't see, you can hardly see it from this image, but against that far wall, we're actually putting quiet rooms. None of our libraries have a quiet space, and so it's all open because you're supposed to be quiet in a library, right? So, but not anymore, and so we're actually creating quiet spaces in our libraries now. But that's the new Logan Library. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yep.
Pretty excited. Just excited for the light.
Yeah.
And let's just see, challenges, let's skip that. Okay. So here's some of our key initiatives. As you know, the renovation of Parkway Central has been going on only for 13 years. And so, but we're actually making great headway in the next, right. And so in the next phase of it, which is our phase 3, is where we deconstruct the stacks, which are in the back of the building, and create 2 brand new spaces, sort of adding back another 30,000 square feet to the library for public service space. And so I don't know if I've ever told you the data. So when I first came here, the Central Library, only 1/3 of it was accessible to the public. By the time we finish this, with more than 2/3 will be accessible to the public now. So part of this is about creating a common, which is basically an internal town hall for people to be able to come and build the civic engagement using the library as a basis. And then building just below that a business research and innovation center to really better address the needs of our small business and entrepreneurial community, which is really very present in the library, and we have a lot of programming around this, but this is really building a center to build the skill sets of the entrepreneur. We're not going to focus on the technology piece of it because there's been a lot of development in West Philly and here, and in Northern Liberties, that sort of thing. So we're going to focus more on hospitality and textiles and sort of smaller businesses that want to get off the ground. As you can see, our 21st Century Libraries program is back in. William Penn has been a great friend of the Free Library in a $25 million grant, not only to support Parkway Central, but really largely to support the 21st Century Libraries. And so a major piece of the 21st Century Libraries is our relationship with communities. So the establishment of these community councils I told you about is a key component of the success of 21st, is in our relationship with community, and the community seeing us as a real asset there. And then, of course, the Read by 4 is probably, we don't believe in tiny initiatives at the Free Library, so everything is monumental, and this is probably the most monumental of
Make no little plans.
Yes. So the good news is that on Friday we'll be interviewing the final candidates, and we'll hopefully have a decision Friday afternoon, and we'll be able to call you and say we have a candidate for you to meet. But I'm very excited about this. I think that this, ambitious goals to be done by 2020. So. And some of it is like you hold your breath and say, okay, we're diving, and some of it is, moving the dial, just moving the needle is going to be so important here. And I think with some of the 50 organizations that are part of it, I think that there's a lot of people who should be involved that aren't involved, and I think that there's going to be a lot of recruitment to continue to build the coalition around this. But all right. So here, again, more initiatives. Collaboration is going to be the key to our continued success. There's a lot we learned as we went through the strategic plan that, we don't have to do it all by ourselves, and creating the connections and the partnerships throughout the city has turned into some very wonderful relationships. And we have one initiative right now called Words at Play Vocabulary Initiative, which is a relationship among the zoo, the art museum, the Kimmel Center, probably the Franklin us, but it's really about building the vocabulary, and we're focusing in North Philadelphia where there are some deficits, and so and we want, and really working with families, but even to go to recruitment of the families to come into the services to the library to participate in the programming has been, it's a change for us to the way we're going about it, but it's really about the collaboration of all of these organizations in doing this. Okay, and then they're talking about the cluster rollout, which we'll have all 8 clusters up and running by September. Okay. Okay, here we are. Here's the recap.
Have you?
Okay.
I mean, there's not only through this particular Philly staff, but I mean, there really is a big story to be told about what has happened over time. And again, that's a tribute to all of you. We've obviously tried to give additional support, but I mean, you have really created an incredible turnaround story for the library system and taking it to another level. And so out of all the, doom and gloom of, tail end of 8 and, full-blown into 9 and 10, there was that one slide, and I know we went past it pretty quick, but I mean, budget's going down, like many departments across the government, but there is a slow rebuilding and, more partnership support, philanthropic support, and others actively engaged. I think, we have to keep telling our story.
Right.
There's some really exciting things going on. I'm very, very proud of what you all have been able to do out of serious crisis to be able to turn things around to where things are today. And I think we just have to continue to, tell that story, let people know the work that you're doing with, the 5 libraries to be fully renovated. If there is a HVAC or other issue with a particular branch, letting people know, here's the story. This is not about service. It's not about money. It's not about staff. It's just about, we need to put, a new system in. And you can't have people running around while you're trying to do that work. We're trying to give you even bigger and better, or at least better. It may not be expanding the footprint, but, sometimes those renovations, take some time. And how do we ensure that people are still getting service? We talk about temporary inconvenience for, more permanent improvement. But the fact that it may be closed for some time still has to be addressed. I mean, kids still need to do their homework.
Right.
Folks still need to look for jobs. And so where's the closest? What is this really about? And, again, we, unfortunately, we created for a time an environment where there was, serious concern about, what were we trying to accomplish and what was the future about. And it was very disruptive and painful and hurtful to a lot of folks. But I think out of all of that, the fact that, more hours than we had before, everyone at 6 days, 10 going to 7, all of these kinds of things. We need to, we had a lot of bad news, and then we worked through it. And when you have good news, you need to tell the good news as well. And this is ultimately a good news story about the Free Library.
Because I do think, the disruption's important, because I think without the disruption, we would not have made the pivot that we did and make the decision to say, we really need to think about this now. We really need to look at this organization.
The disruption was painful.
I'm not going to argue with
I wish we had figured out the
pivot.
without all of that pain. I'd just been a little smarter. We paid for it.
Well, you've been there with us all along, so we really appreciate it. It's it didn't happen without a lot of support around this table. So.
I think the public investment, both on the operational side and the capital side, has been instrumental in getting the other funders to the table.
Yeah.
It's made a big difference.
I agree.
So. Because people,
well, I think they were
foundations,
wondering.
Corporations, even other, state and federal government, what do the local guys do?
Right.
Are they serious?
Always a question.
If we're serious, then they'll be serious. So I think sort of getting the capital funds are moving early, building back soon as the budget, soon as the economy got a little better, really created the the platform
Right.
for what you're talking about, and that is
Yeah.
an incredible jump, really building the programs, building this presence in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and winning over all those friends groups. I mean, they're sort of winning them, bringing them back
Yeah.
to supporting
Yeah.
our efforts,
Right.
and not feeling like we're adversaries.
Sure.
But now they have an ally.
Yeah.
And a partner
Yeah.
who they can trust.
Right.
Yeah, it's been fun
Yeah.
to be part of it, and exciting to
Yeah.
sort of be,
Yeah.
be here for it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's been fascinating the last couple of years is the relationship with the school district and how that has changed so dramatically too. I think that I would say Joe is leading a project called Building Bridges with Books, and it's the relationship between, where there isn't a library in a school, we have 18 libraries connected to 10 schools, and the school children are coming to our spaces and getting
Right.
information literacy skills, and building that relationship so that the library becomes a part of their life. And we're supporting the district in its curriculum-based services as well. So that's unusual,
Mhm.
the unusual.
Hmm.
But it's great.
I'd also like to talk about the connection between the prisons and the
Right.
investments that we made there. Obviously, the way that we end up remembering that our citizens are everywhere and touching them everywhere, touching them sometimes where they are, will help us as well. And I want to thank, because I know that's an evolving story that we have to continue to tell in order to truly get our returning citizens where they really need to be, which is out of where they are temporarily and back and using all of these resources to keep them on the street and narrow. So that's something else that we, especially as we are now going forward with, the prisons will be a separate department. They'll have their own relationship. They'll be getting their own budgets. Some of the things that we have to make sure that we're building in is this connection between utilizing these services, because that's part of the vision also. Not just touching them digitally, but touching them physically as well, and that'll help going forward. So I thank you for that.
That was last November's
Yes.
ballot question?
Yeah, and it starts as of July 1st.
Okay.
Great, well, I want to thank Deputy Mayor Ziegler-Dazidas and the President Siobhan Reardon and the Pittsburgh Leadership Team for joining us today. Please continue the conversation with us by continuing to connect through our social media channels, which you see on the screen. Now, join us next time as we revisit Mayor's Goal 1, making Philadelphia one of the safest cities in America, with a performance discussion with the Department of License and Inspections. Thanks again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good job.
These